Hello again, I'm Jonathan Marlowe from CFI Releasing, the distribution arm of the California Film Institute, which puts on the Mill Valley Film Festival, 40 years going. And I would like to welcome back to the stage the lovely and talented Ingrid Veninger, writer, producer, and director of Porcupine Lake.
Thank you. And thank you for staying for the Q&A.
Yes,
Fun.
thank you. So I know this is a long process to bring this film to the screen, but I wanted to talk a little bit quickly before we open it up to the audience about your screenwriting process. And it's hinted at in the end credits, so if you're reading, you met Melissa Leo at the Whistler Film Festival, and that was kind of the beginnings of what became this film. Although
Yeah.
we met in Europe.
Rotterdam.
In Rotterdam.
Yeah.
For your last film.
Yes,
Even though
He
we
Hated
communicated
Pigeons.
long before that.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you acquired 4 of my films for Fandor.
Yeah.
So this script was really championed by many circles of women, starting with a writer's lab that I initiated where 6 Canadian women who'd all done at least one feature film agreed to meet for 6 months, in which time we were all going to write an original screenplay, starting from scratch in January, finishing in June. And Melissa Leo became the champion of this initiative, and she put down her personal money to have a first look at these scripts. So when the 6 of us sat to write, we were all thinking of roles for Melissa, but I couldn't get the story of these 2 13-year-old girls out of my head. And I think it was because of the environment of writing in a circle of women and having us sort of reflect on our experiences growing up and how cinema was reflecting those experiences, and wanting to sort of dig into girlhood a little bit. And this is very much a reflection of my girlhood, because when my parents first came to Canada from former Czechoslovakia, one of the first jobs my father had was managing a snack bar in Port Severn, 10 minutes from where we shot this film. So I spent many, many summers between the ages of 7 and 12 wishing for that soulmate, that best friend who would just, get me. And that's where a lot of the ideas in this film were born.
Tell me about your very special dog wrangler on this film.
Oh, that dog. That dog is named Gwillem, and he belongs to one of my very good friends. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the singer-songwriter Jane Siberry, but she actually does these talks, live chats on Facebook every Thursday now, if you want to tune into her. She's an amazing human with a very unique mind, and she had mentioned that she wanted to get her dog in the movies, so this is her first dog wrangling gig, and she was amazing and he was amazing because as a sheepdog, he really understood repetition, and he would hit his marks and yawn at the perfect time and sigh at the perfect time and lift his head and put his head back down, not to be a scene stealer or anything. He knew when to sort of dip below the frame, and he was incredible. So if you're looking for a dog, if for any filmmakers out there, Jane Siberry's dog, Gwillem.
Well, because you're not supposed to have children or animals in film, and you always seem to somehow say, we'll just go ahead and make that
The
work.
dogs and the baby. That's my daughter playing the young teen mom. We've done 3 feature films. Check. Okay, I'm going to switch. We've done 3 films together, and auditioning that baby drove in with the mom for 3 hours to come and be a part of the film, and then 3 hours back home. They live in Sudbury. So that was one determined mom, and I think the baby's a real natural too. I think we're going to be seeing more of her. Her name is Lisa, because when he was eating that cereal and she was mouthing right along, that was her. That was a little ad-libbing on the part of the baby that I thought was perfect.
This is still
Oh, no, okay.
But let's
Open it up.
Please, someone.
I'll also say this is the first, the girl that plays Bee, she lives in Windsor, Ontario, and it's the first time she's ever acted in anything in her life. A real natural. I met her.
Your town.
Well, I do love the coming of age genre, and I love working with performers, be they experienced veterans or newcomers. But it was her very first job, and the other girl was a little bit, had a harder time casting that role, and she came from Melbourne, Australia, so she had to do a Canadian accent. She's a real Aussie, so that was a real method gig for her. No one knew she was from Australia the entire shoot because she never let her accent slip.
She's fantastic. Yes, sir.
You made us feel so uncomfortable, like the scene. Was that done through editing, where you did more pausing and stuff, or you felt get comfortable? And it really worked well. The music was fantastic.
Oh, I'll tell Zeus. Yeah, the band, 100% Toronto band that I'd envisioned for the music from the very beginning when I was writing, and they said yes. It took me 2 years of emailing them. So the band is Zeus, and 2 members of that band did the score. And I love awkward rhythms and that age that's a real limbo time between childhood and adolescence, and it's very fleeting and almost feels like it's becoming an extinct time. So partly I wanted to explore the time and take social media and technology out of the equation. So even though it's a contemporary film, no cell phones or television sets or computers, so that we can just kind of sit in that feeling of long days and wandering and getting lost and kind of feeling lonely and that yearning and that longing and that awkwardness. Yes, so if you felt that, it's everything I wanted. Thank you.
Ingrid Cinema's discomfort. Punk
Yes.
films all the way.
The cinema of discomfort, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the teeth brushing and looking. It was one of the first images. There were a few images I had at the very beginning of writing the screenplay, and that was one, and it was twofold. I think in coming of age, sometimes there is an aesthetic thing we see often where we're put inside the characters' our protagonists. So there's a lot of point of view shooting. So traditionally, a girl in the backseat of a car, we would see her point of view out the window. And I don't really do that with this film. There's a bit of distance and scenes are shot in long single takes. But I definitely wanted those sort of jarring moments that came to me as a toothbrushing sort of recurring motif that would build on that would reflect how her life was feeling more and more chaotic and how she was feeling less and less in control of what was going on. And it came from when I was in grade 6, middle school. We always had these dental hygienists that came to our class with these big teeth and these big toothbrushes, and they would insist on brushing top down, top, outer, inner, and then bottom up, outer, inner. And I still brush my teeth like that to this day. And when I see people brushing their teeth like this, all chaotic, I think it's very intense for me to observe that. So as her parents were breaking down and as she was a witness to that, I thought, okay, I'm going to illustrate that with chaotic teeth brushing. And that is going to be so clear. And then, of course, when there's no toothbrush and she's at Kate, she has to do it with her finger. Because I don't like not brushing my teeth. And I've had to do it with my finger, and I'll do it with my finger. So this is kind of like a childhood trauma I'm dealing with in this movie.
Additional questions? Yes, in the way back.
Yeah, did everyone hear that? Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, I've seen a lot of films dealing with this age that center on boys, many of them. And I would say in Scandinavia and in Europe, I see more that center on girls than in English Canada, but they tend to be older girls. I mean, we are the best. There are a few exceptions, but they tend to be 14, 15, 16, more about sexuality. There's always a guy in there that somebody's obsessed about, be it, to make an impression in a fake way or real way. And I just wanted to exclude the boy from the equation in this story, and I really wanted to center on girls of 12 and 13. And I realized that there aren't that many films that deal with this particular age and focus on older because it's a huge responsibility as a filmmaker to take young performers on this journey when they themselves have not experienced things their characters are experiencing. And for these girls, they'd never had a kiss in their life with anyone, And so it took a lot of trust on their part, on the parts of their families. And there's a continuing communication with us. They just had a reunion in Toronto at the festival. But it was a big, big journey for them. And I really wanted girls of that age to be in the film. And everyone was telling me when I was writing it that would be impossible and I would have to cast 16-year-olds or at least 14-year-olds to play 13. But when I auditioned for 18 months to find these girls. At 14, it was a complete, even now, they're a year older, they couldn't play these parts. They're completely different. They have more references, more experience, more awareness. So that was important to me, this age very specifically. And for Kate, on the page she reads as tough, and she's a bit more of the dominant, more experienced one because she has these siblings and she's seen more, observed more. But she has this vulnerability. And with the young actress, we spoke a lot about the scene with the red suitcase, how when she runs with a red suitcase and says, if you're leaving, I want to come with you, and B kind of puts on the brakes a bit and says, what about your family? That Kate has to quickly, with all the tabs open in her brain, sort of go, and then try to cover up, but still leave her heart open and not cover up and put on a mask to an extent that she's completely detaching and is going to punish the way she might have in the beginning. And we had one take to do that because the sun was going down. We were always, fighting the sun was our key light. And she had one take, and she was able to, as a 13-year-old girl, have the emotional maturity and the skill as an actor to play both sides of the porcupine for me, the spiky, quilly part that can get really defensive and attack, and the underbelly, the really soft, vulnerable underbelly. And that was the challenge of Kate. And though she can be manipulative, but she's also full of heart, and that's what makes this, for me, a love story.
We only have time for one more question, which means it better be really good. No pressure. But before we get to that last question, I want to recommend that everyone seek out Ingrid's other films. They're all very different and all also somehow similar in their way of being very unconventional, but always deeply moving. And I really love the way that you're able to elicit such amazing performances from many times first-time actors, or non-actors as people like to refer to them, but everyone's acting. We're acting right now. Okay, question. Who's it going to be? Come on. Yes, gentlemen, go for it.
So you combat it from the actor's perspective. What's your background in that way?
Very perceptive.
Do I come at it from an actor's perspective? Yes, I was a child actor. I started acting when I was 11, and I was on a TV show by the time I was 15. So I acted. Acting was my life until my early 20s, and then I became a mother. And I started working in production as a producer and as an AD and as a script supervisor. And it's just very recently that I started directing in the last 8 years. But I would say my writing and directing is predominantly motivated by a love of working with actors. It's all just a way to work with actors. I love them. And now I'm doing my master's in cinema. And
That's right.
yeah, I'm so excited. I'm
Congratulations.
so excited. And the coolest thing is I put out a submission for actors to sort of workshop my thesis film, which I'll shoot next summer. But I got 1,000 union actors submitted, and of those 1,000, I selected 160. And in the next 8 weeks, I'll be working with all of these 160 actors over like 7 workshops. And I just did one last week, and I'm going to do one more. And I cannot wait to work with actors. And these are actors I've never worked with before. And again, they're all professional, but with varying levels of experience. So yeah, actors are endlessly fascinating and very brave to me.
Let's give it up for this wonderful writer, director, multi-talented.
Thank you, and thank you to this awesome festival. 40 years, happy anniversary, truly. Yeah.
Thank you.